stuff in the dApp space are also doing stuff for enterprise, which have very different requirements. They're also doing stuff for investors, so it makes it really easy to buy and sell and trade and build really interesting speculative instruments on top. If that's all we're doing with the blockchain, that's a very limited vision. Ultimately, what I think we all want to see is that millions and billions of people are using blockchain technologies just as part of their everyday life. We are trying to do this, and we're going down this path. So I'll spend a couple of seconds talking about what we're doing, but it's really just to give you the context of how we're trying to solve problems and to share some of the learnings that we've got. So the quick summary about us is we're building a decentralized ISP. And you can think of it like Airbnb for internet access. And we're doing it by tokenizing bandwidth with a token that we call OG. Anybody can share their internet connection and earn OG. And if you think about how this would have to work at scale, trying to build a large-scale ISP that anybody can share their internet with, it's millions of people, and it's millions and ultimately billions of transactions, because a session could be just a few megabytes, or a session could be gigabytes. And so we need a way to move lots of transactions, and that has to be done very cheaply. So we already have a product. It's live in Google Play. You can download it today and use it. We're integrating our token next month. So you can actually buy OG, share your internet, earn that cryptocurrency, and you'll be able to cash out. So we're pretty far ahead in the game. And we've had a lot of twists and turns in trying to figure out actually how to make this thing happen so that it's really scalable. So this isn't something we're doing 1 to 5 years from now. So two of the big factors are transaction costs and throughput. Now we've seen with Ethereum and CryptoKitties what happens when there's suddenly a lot of consumer demand. The network slows down, transaction costs get pretty high, and with Bitcoin, I mean we've seen this is really not a consumer grade platform. If you want to do everything as an on-chain transaction, we're just not ready for that. $60 to $70 a transaction, could be 15 minutes to complete the transaction. In our product and in many decentralized consumer apps, people need to be able to press a button, pay money in fiat to get crypto and use it, in our case, for internet access right away. They can't wait 15 minutes. They don't want to wait more than 10 seconds. Like, this is just how consumer services work. You don't want to do this when you buy an in-game purchase for a game that you've downloaded from iOS App Store. It's the same thing here. And so we need to think around how we do that. So there are great solutions that are coming. We've looked closely at Lightning Network and Raiden. These are fantastic teams doing really amazing work. Not ready next month for us to use, but it will get there. And things are going to evolve and change, and that's sort of one of the key messages for today. We've decided to work on the Stellar blockchain. Transactions here take seconds. The cost at the moment, well, yesterday, is 4 orders of magnitude cheaper than an on-chain transaction on Ethereum. So this is a pretty fantastic start. I can tell you as a startup, talking to investors, many people haven't heard of this. And so that's a limiting factor for startups that are trying to get off the ground. We're past that point, so it's not an issue for us, but this is a factor for some people. So another big factor is around cash in and cash out. Again, we're dealing with like ordinary, regular consumers. They don't need to know anything about cryptocurrency. They won't know anything about cryptocurrency except what they heard around the dinner table at Thanksgiving, that Bitcoin's this thing. What we need is a way for people to exchange fiat currency for OG. And the big services out there in the US, the centralized services like PayPal and Stripe, they won't support crypto. They're explicitly not going to go down that route yet. And a lot of this has to deal with really, really good reasons. Anti-money laundering concerns, these are very important concerns. So can't use those. Coinbase is an alternative as well. Coinbase doing very well right now, but struggling, as we've seen publicly, to scale. Coinbase was built for investors, so hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of investors, but not for hundreds of millions of consumers who instantly need to buy cryptocurrency. That's not the whole reason for Coinbase. That said, we've decided to start there. There's an API that we can use. It's not 100% resilient for what we're trying to do. Again, because there's just massive scaling issues that they're struggling through. Amazing team doing really incredible work, but it's not entirely there for consumer services. Another alternative that we're going to implement is using QR codes, so that if I'm a consumer of internet access and I've got a provider of internet access, they can meet together and use a QR code to exchange $5 for OG. And that's doable. That's a good starting point. It's not great if you have a notion of a coverage map and people walking around throughout the whole world. But in our case, as a starting point, if you're sharing your home internet access with the next door neighbor to you in a condo, there's a way that you could meet in person and exchange OG. So there's a starting point, but this is not frictionless. This is not like it's done. This is going to take time for these kinds of experiences to become really, really simple. Another for cash out. So how do you now convert OG that you've earned to fiat again is another challenge. And one that we're looking at is a company called TransferTo. Fantastic product. They've got the ability to move airtime or mobile top-up from phone to phone anywhere in the world. And so you could take OG and convert that to airtime, which here might not be that meaningful, but in a place like Kenya, this is basically currency. So there is a way to get cash out to something that's pretty useful. I think what's really TBD are the blockchain-based solutions. So Dether is a great example of peer-to-peer cryptocurrency exchange that's coming for regular consumers. But again, this is coming. Many other solutions will emerge in time. So if you're trying to build something early like we are, there are pain points like this, and these will be alleviated over time. I think in the meantime, what really is implied by some of this is that there's sort of partial decentralization going on right now in the consumer data space. And if you're building a blockchain solution that's like Fabric on top of Ether or Bitcoin, totally decentralized. If you're building something that's very enterprise focused, where people can go to an exchange and enter their bank account, could be totally decentralized. In the consumer space, we're not entirely there. So we're dealing with kind of like this partial solution in which the actors in an economy, consumers and providers in our case, and investors or speculators are kind of siloed. So an example of this is Dent, which has got a cool product, did their ICO, they're doing very well on exchanges. You can buy the Dent token as a consumer using PayPal, but it's like a virtual good. It's not actually written to the blockchain. It's actually centralized on a database that's run by this company. And that's fine, but that's not like this totally decentralized thing. And then as an investor, you can go to an exchange and speculate on Dent all you like, and that's done very like $600 to $700 million coin market cap. So that's doing quite well, despite not being totally decentralized. So this is kind of the state of the art right now. And as we look to folks like Kik, who are building out a really cool service that's for consumers, and we look to Telegram, which raising over $1 billion apparently in an ICO, we'll see this stuff mature and become more decentralized and evolve over time. But the truth is that there is some centralization in a large-scale consumer debt today. I think it's really a work in progress, and we're going to get there. But we need to think of it that way. And one of the things that this implies is, as you read through people's white papers and they talk about this completely decentralized thing, read through the lines a little bit, because the truth is that much of this is not entirely there yet. The other is around iteration. If you're building a consumer service and 6 months from now there's amazing stuff that's going to help your consumers, then people are going to iterate and move toward that. And that's going to happen. Even blockchain hopping. Kik has done this. They announced in their white paper, we're doing an ERC20, now it's Stellar. Those are good decisions. Those are the right decisions. But it means that a company is going, we're moving over to here and doing that. And that's going to continue to happen. I think that's a good thing. So we're going to continue documenting our learnings. I encourage you to follow along and learn from us. We're kind of on the front lines of this and happy to share more. We're also going to have a table, so if you want to come by and talk, feel free to chat with me. Thanks so much.